Let me close by talking to you about 4 myths about regional conferences. Myth number 1, regional conferences are a relic of segregation. Okay, regional conferences are not a relic of segregation. They are the result of segregation. Here's myth number 2, which is a big myth. If regional conferences went away, we'd all come together. That's what people use as an argument. They'll say, I don't believe in separate conferences. And then here's another one. They'll say, in heaven, there's not going to be a black conference or a white conference. True. There's not going to be any conference. There's not going to be a general conference. But no one is suggesting that we do away with general conferences or unions or divisions or anything other than regional conferences. Why is that? All right. Here is the truth. If regional conferences went away tomorrow, today, if they went away today, our church would not be more integrated than it already is. Because the reason why our conferences are segregated is because our churches are largely segregated. Now, I know our brethren in the state conference will say, no, we have diversity. You have diversity only because people of color have joined Caucasian churches. The reverse is not true. Well, here's what also is not true. There is no more integration with my brethren and my friends in the West Coast than there is in the regional conferences. What my brethren in the West Coast don't have, they are, in addition to not having a lot of real integration, they also do not have the ability to fully control their own resources, right? So it's not true that if regional conferences went away, we'd all come together. The truth of the matter is, as reluctant as I am to say this, the reality is we have a history of saying that if enough people of color come to a entity, a church that is operated by the majority culture leaves. All you have to do is look at Greater New York, for example. Greater New York is a state conference that has become almost entirely a conference of color. And there are other entities that I could name, but I think we know which entities they are, and we know that we have a challenge in this country. It's not all based on racism. Some of it is based on worship style. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with people of any culture saying we are more comfortable worshiping this way. What's wrong is when those people decide that they are only going to allow people of that culture to worship in that church. And even though that no longer happens, if you're my age, you either experience this personally or you know of someone that this happened to, where they tried to attend a church. They were African American, and they tried to attend a non-African American church, and they were told, your church meets across town. So, regional conferences didn't start that. They are a result of that. And if they went away, the problems that caused regional conferences to start in the first place have not fully gone away. All right, myth number 3, that integration in the United States and in the Seventh-day Adventist Church is not a one-way street. By that I mean, and I said this earlier, integration only happens generally by people of color leaving black entities and going or Latino entities and going to the majority culture. The majority culture typically does not ever leave to go to a Black entity. And so integration is a one-way street, all right? The truth of the inconvenient truth, and this makes people uncomfortable, and that's not the intent. But not saying it doesn't make it not true, right? The truth is that people of color seek a diversity that is not in search of them, right? And then here's the last myth, and that is that regional conferences are not well run. The truth of the matter is regional conferences operate with significantly less tithe than state conferences. At the same time, all of us contribute the same amount of tithe to what's called the higher organization. Roughly 25% of the tithe does not stay within the local conference. It goes, in my opinion, to do what it's supposed to do, and that is aid in the spread of the gospel around the world. All of you who say things like, I want to see my tithe go where I see it do the most good, you miss the part that a part of the gospel commission is to take the gospel around the world. Your local church cannot do that. We are able to have the presence around the world in a way that no other church other than the Catholic Church has. We're able to have schools, hospitals, churches, clinics around the world. We operate in roughly 90% of the churches around the world. And we do that because we have a system that, however imperfect it is, allows us to share tithe. We just came back from what I think is one of the great events, despite its logistical challenges that we had in Gillette. If you were there to see young people from around the world, it was one of the most thrilling things, worshiping together. It was one of the most thrilling things in my life. We would not have that were it not for a system that shares tithe. But that means that we all contribute the same percentage. The conferences with a lot of revenue, and even in regional conferences, there's a wide gap. Let me give you an example. Let's take the South Atlantic Conference. The South Atlantic Conference has roughly $30 million of tithe. Praise the Lord. It operates in the same territory, roughly, of two state conferences, Georgia, Cumberland, and the Carolina Conference. The combined tithe of those two is roughly $100 million. Now, it's true that they have more people, but they also have roughly 3 times the same amount of tithe. Those three entities contribute the same amount of tithe to what's called the higher organizations, the union, the division, the general conference. They contribute the same amount. So that means that when Georgia, Cumberland, and Carolina, if they were one conference like South Atlantic, that means they would contribute roughly $25 million, which means they have $75 million left over. That means before my former treasurer, Mrs. Marquita Mosley, we worked together in South Atlantic, before she writes her first check in South Atlantic, she's $45 million behind. $45 million behind. All right. I imagine that Elder Preston and Elder David Smith, the vice president, and Dr. Everton Ennis and Mrs. Mosley, the administration of South Atlantic, I imagine they can think of a thing or two to do with $45 million per year more to do. But despite being behind economically, we're ahead in terms of growth in regional conferences. And so rather than us, and it comes from us saying that we don't know how to run things. I would love to be able to operate with the resources that other people have. But despite the fact the Lord has blessed us. And let me close by giving you this example. When my home conference, Allegheny, started, they started in 1945-ish. They started in 1945. They operated from a room that they rented from the bookstore of one of our members. The president's desk was a sink with a board over it. That's how they started. But we're going to put a picture of Allegheny East Conference office. It's one of the most beautiful conference offices that any of us have. And they have one of the higher per capita tithes in North America, in North American division. So my point is, look how far that the Lord has brought us. And so rather than sometimes saying we're not necessary, sometimes we say to ourselves, let's celebrate what the blessings of God these past 80 years, and let's work together in regional conferences to do our part, to finish the work of God so that we can all go. Thanks for listening. God bless.